Good afternoon and welcome to the June 2020 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thanks everybody for joining us. I want to thank everyone at OPPD involved in preparing for this week's board meetings. As I said, this is month 3 of our virtual meetings, and I appreciate all of the flexibility and patience that you've all demonstrated. In particular, Tuesday's meeting, that was really well done. In turn for your continued patience today, I think I can firmly commit to today's meeting rivaling the length of our 8-hour meeting on. So that's my commitment to you. As a reminder, logistically speaking, board members, senior management, OPPD staff, please mute your microphones to reduce the background noise. Members of the public that are with us today, thank you for attending. You are currently in listen-only mode. If you have any technology questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx to communicate with the event host, and Lauren will help you out. If you are disconnected from the WebEx conference for any reason, we ask that you just simply rejoin in the same manner as when you originally joined. Mr. Burke, safety briefing, please. Tim, you're on mute, my friend.
First thing you asked us to do is to mute. So we have 10 actions we have asked everybody to take relative to COVID-19. They're on the screen here. I won't go over those, but with the forecast of the weather over the next couple of days, really hot, humid weather coming up, we would ask, as we have with our employees, to be very thoughtful about fluidizing their body as they work outside or play outside. 4 waters to every 1 Gatorade. Seek shade when you can seek shade or find shade, and make sure you use sunscreen, and certainly abide by the 10 actions to slow the spread of COVID-19. And that concludes the briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so let's run through our list of guidelines for the conduct of this meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on OPPD. This meeting is being conducted on WebEx events and is also being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are a part of the official public record. Following board discussion on each pending matter, I will stop and ask for public comment before bringing the matter to a vote. Also, prior to the adjournment of the meeting, so at the very conclusion, the public will have an opportunity to comment on any other matters of OPPD business. If you wish to speak, there are 2 options for how you can notify us. Option 1, which is being displayed now, involves sending the meeting technology host a message using the chat feature, simply stating that you wish to speak. Host Lauren, do you want to walk us through this real quick, please?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Moody. For those who have joined us using a computer or WebEx mobile app, you will find a button in your WebEx interface to open the chat panel. Once opened, you may send your message into the meeting host. Requests to provide comments will be relayed to the corporate secretary for recognition during the public comment section.
There we go. Involves a hand raise feature. Go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, sure. WebEx allows for attendees to virtually raise their hands. We would ask that this feature be used to indicate to OPPD that you wish to be recognized to provide comments. You will find the hand raise button in the participant list panel as displayed on this slide. Once you have been recognized, please press the hand raise button once again to virtually lower your hand.
Okay, and I don't know if we've got anybody that's only a call-in user yet today. Doesn't look like we do. Actually, we've got one, right?
Yep.
Yep, we've got one. So for the current call-in user and for anyone that joins us later, Mo, can you describe for them what their process is for raising their hand?
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me first of all?
Yes.
All right, so WebEx has a new feature for telephone-only users where you can press *3 on your phone and it will actually show us a hand raise. And that is when we will then, when we see your hand raised, we will unmute you, ask you to provide your comment. And then you will press *3 after you provide your comment to lower your hand. That is all.
So for you calling user, what that means is you'll hit *3. I'll see your virtual hand go up, and then I will refer to you as calling you 430. That's the beginning of your phone number, so you will know when it's time for you to speak. Okay, I will definitely allow plenty of time at each opportunity for public comment for members of the public to provide notification to work through the process. I think it's gone pretty well the previous 2 months, but let's not rest on our laurels. When I call on a member of the public to speak, our meeting technology host will unmute your microphone. Before commencing your comments, I suggest that you affirm that we can hear you. When you do, please state your name and address and state the name of any organization or person you are representing. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending at the discretion of the board. To assist you, we'll display a timer to ensure each member of the public receives a consistent amount of time. Ms. Henners will also signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. If you would, please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. If you have written materials, please email them to Ms. Henners at mfhinners, mfhinners at oppd.com, and she will receive them on our behalf. Okay, Ms. Henners, will you please take the roll?
Wagner. Here. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Director Kavanaugh.
Here.
Thank you. Director Gay.
Here.
Director McGuire.
Here.
Director Molhoff.
Here.
Director Moody. Director Williams.
Here.
And Director Yoder.
Here.
Thank you. Announcement regarding public notice of meeting. Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in outlets newsletter and on oppd.com, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza since June 5, 2020, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on that same date. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for inspection, for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on oppd.com. The board consent agenda items are as follows. Item 6, ratification of the decision to conduct the June board meetings virtually due to the COVID-19 public health situation. Item 7, approval of the April 2020 comprehensive financial and operating report, May 2020 meeting minutes, and the June 11th, 2020 agenda. Item 8, rate and service regulation manual modernization, resolution number 6376. Item 9, Nebraska City 2 cooling tower fire protection pipe replacement contract award, resolution number 6378. And item 10, SD 15 enterprise risk management monitoring report, resolution number 6379. If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items, I need a motion and a second to approve these items.
So moved.
Second.
Who was it that second?
Motion to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mel.
It was Kavanaugh motion, and who seconded?
Director McGuire.
Thank you.
Okay, so we discussed all of these items at our committee meeting on Tuesday. So at this time, I would like to ask if any members of the public have any comments on these consent agenda items. Again, if you would like to make a comment, please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. And for our call-in user, please hit *3 on your phone. Okay, I am not seeing any raised hands. Lauren, do you have any chat requests?
I do not. Nope.
Okay. Final call for comment from the public. Okay, we'll go ahead and call that good. Ms. Sanders, could you give us a roll call, please?
Yes. Bogner. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Mulhoff.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0. Agenda item 11, SD2 rates monitoring report, resolution number 6380. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors accepts the strategic directive SD2 rates monitoring report in the form as set forth on Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, and finds OPPD to be sufficiently in compliance with the policy as stated. I need a motion and a second.
So move.
Second.
All right, so I always think it's important to have these monitoring reports as part of our board discussion action items. And we bring forth today the rates monitoring report that really assesses how we're doing with our rates on compared to our West, North, Central peer group. We have the directional aspirational target of being 20% below that. And through the monitoring report, we're getting there. We're certainly, it's a lofty goal to achieve, but we are headed in that direction. And I'm excited to see the future, how our rate strategy discussions over a few years really helps us achieve that goal. At this time, I'd like to ask if any of my fellow board members would like to comment. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much, and thank you to staff for the work on this report and on the rates throughout the year. In particular, the rate manual modernization, which we just approved on the consent agenda, was a big step forward. That was something we had discussed last year. And again, appreciation to the staff and to CFO Fernandez for your work on getting that together and bringing that to the public to follow through on making our rates more easy to understand. The report does talk specifically about affordability, and I think that's something that we should continue to focus on in the future, because affordability is fundamentally and structurally different than just rates as measured by the cents per kilowatt hour that most people see on their bills. I think the quick start guides that have also been developed with the modernized rate manual will help people to understand that, but I think that's something we should keep in mind as we look to set policy and continue to improve rates into the future. And that last part about continued improvement, I think, is really important. There are always ways that we can do better for our customer owners and for the stakeholders in our community. So I think this report does a great job of highlighting areas where we have done well. And I look forward to areas where we will continue to improve in the future, specifically as we discussed on Tuesday, looking at the declining block in the residential rate 110 and finding a pathway to move away from that older rate structure and into something that is more supportive of conservation and efficiency. And represents affordability for all of our residential customer owners. So again, thanks very much for all the work over the last year to the team and to everyone. And I think that we are pointed in a very positive direction according to the directives here and everything that's been presented on Tuesday. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Director.
You're muted, Director Yoder.
I'd like to double down on what Director Williams said. So rather than repeating everything, but let you know that I agree with it, is that I have been here a little bit longer, and the SD2 reports that we had when I first got here have been much improved by the obvious work that has been done by the team. And I'm thankful for that. We've seen a report that has moved into a greater focus on affordability rather than just rates. And I look forward to that expanding in the future. And I guess I will throw out the possibility. I'm hopeful that the board can look at this SD2 as something we might want to improve upon to greater emphasize affordability as we meet at the retreat in August. That's it.
Thank you, Director Yoder. Any other comments, members? I don't see any virtual hands. I don't see anybody waving their hand. Simply say I echo the good work Eric and Rick both mentioned. Different report that call us seeing the first time I saw the board in 2017. So everybody for the hard work. This is, as CFO Fernandez mentioned on Tuesday, it's to no general rate increase. So I'm really of all the work that the district has done to strive towards that objective. Okay, last board member comments. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to public. I already see Corbin out there, so we've got one to begin with. So again, just as a reminder, everyone, please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. You can see both those alternatives there. And for those that are calling in, please press *3 to raise your virtual hand.
Okay, I will go ahead and unmute David Corbin.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street, speaking on behalf of the Sierra Club, Nebraska Sierra Club. I just want to echo what my director said. I listened in on all of your long meeting that I was allowed to on Tuesday and appreciated the discussion about rates and the declining rates and how that might need to be changed. I just want to remind the board, I think most people were here, but when that $30 fixed rate was passed, every stakeholder that I know of testified in opposition to it. So I hope you keep that in mind as you go forward and look at your future rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corbin. Mr. Ryan Walter will go ahead and go next. If we can unmute him.
He is unmuted.
Okay, Ryan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was also able to tune into most of the committee meeting on Tuesday and was generally pleased to see the direction things were going in terms of affordability. But I did want to provide some comments on the slides, as I think affordability may be a larger problem than the slides on SD2 indicate. There was a comment on Tuesday that, quote, affordability is in the eye of the beholder, which is true in a colloquial sense, but in energy policy, a common measure is 6% of household income. I think that we have to remember affordability can only be meaningfully conceptualized in relation to ability to pay. The presentation estimates the average energy burden in the OPPD district is 1.7% based on average residential bill and average household income. Such average comparisons, though, tell us little about the extent to which citizen owners are challenged by affordability. Looking at the low-income energy affordability data tool from the Department of Energy, we can see that this figure obscures major geographical and demographic inequalities, which I think was acknowledged Tuesday. But while this tool aggregates all energy costs, not just electricity, there's good reason to believe that the factors of income, housing stock, age, etc., will produce relatively similar patterns in electrical cost burdens in terms of their variability. This is data also for 2016, which we should keep in mind is before the negative impacts on affordability of the rate restructure and fixed fee manifest. So this skewed distribution, for example, the half of households at or below median income in Douglas County, the average energy burden is 5%. If we look only at those households making up to 80% of median average income, that energy burden rises to 6%. Right at the US HHS limit of affordability. So if the average is at the limit, many customer owners are facing unaffordable energy bills. So I think we need better data to estimate what the extent of energy burdens is and where those are occurring so we can better target programs. I was glad to hear that OPPD is committed to making better use of both public data and their own billing data. If OPPD can make anonymized or aggregate data available at the census tract or zip code level, academic researchers could assist them with electrical bill specific analysis rather than these sort of total energy cost measures. And so I think rate reform is really essential to affordability. I'd point to the regulatory assistance project work in this area. I'm also disappointed, I would say, that the declining block rate structure has yet to be corrected despite years of commentary on the campaign trail and in office by board members. I think if LES can implement a tiered demand charge with no better metering than OPPD and a much smaller utility, there's no reason that we can't do so. This would really help address the problems of affordability by reducing bills for low income, low use households and more fairly allocating those demand costs to households with likely more ability to respond through conservation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wishart. If you have comments, could you please, written materials, would you please email them to me?
Sure.
Yep. Brian, especially if you're pointing to data, that would be really interesting for us to see what it is and what the source is. So thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Okay, I believe Mr. John Pollock has his hand raised as well. So if we could go ahead and unmute him.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. In the interest of time, in accordance with the guidelines, I would mainly echo the comments of the previous two speakers. The declining block rate and the high monthly fee are both impediments to affordability. When it comes particularly to low income, low energy user people, I find it contradictory to a lot of other things to say, well, no matter how good you are about using your energy, if you're low income, you're still going to pay more for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock. Okay, do we have any, I don't see any other hands raised. Lauren, are there any chat requests to make a comment?
I have not gotten any chat requests.
Okay.
Chairman Moody, this is Tim Burke. I would just say to the spoke previously, we'll be doing a presentation before the president's report around income qualified program update. And I think you'll see some of the work that we are doing to try to funnel and focus and maximize the dollars to support energy conservation related measures. And Julie and her team will be presenting that. And so, please stay tuned and you can certainly give us feedback on the work that we're doing there. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Tim. Okay, last call for comments from the general public. I don't see any hands raised, and Lauren confirming that you don't have any chats.
Yep, I have no chats from the public at this time.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. Mo, if you could do the roll.
Wagner,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
McGuire, Wolhoff,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Williams. Can't hear you, Director Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Yoder.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. All right, agenda item 12, rider schedule number 464, standby service, resolution number 6377. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the revised rider schedule 464 standby service attached hereto is hereby approved, and management is authorized and directed to implement the revised rider schedule 464. A motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so this is mine again for tee up for board discussion. What I want to share with you is that, OPPD is positioning itself as your trusted energy partner, and this resolution speaks to that very thing. Part of being a great energy partner includes being supportive of our customers' interests in generating their own energy using on-site renewable systems like solar PV and wind turbines. The customer experience team recently reviewed and improved the process for how such customers engage with OPPD when contemplating, designing, and energizing such systems. It is now much easier for customers to work with OPPD during this process. Revising Rider Schedule 464 to make this schedule not mandatory for customer-owned renewable solar and wind systems is the next step toward becoming the energy company of the future. I appreciate the work that the Finance Business Unit did in preparation for this resolution for the board's consideration. At this time, would any other board members like to make comments or ask questions?
Okay, I see direct hand up. Go ahead, Janice.
So I appreciate that this is being included today. I know that we had been talking about it some time, but really had started working on it in earnest in the last few months. And I appreciate the Finance Business Unit and their responsive to the board's request to do this at the same time that we modernize the rate manual. This is really, for me, an economic development issue as much as it is a rate schedule issue. And so I know that there are community development projects that are waiting in line for this to happen so that they can move forward. And I appreciate OPPD being responsive to that economic development interest. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Mulhoff. Director Williams.
Yeah, I also am very appreciative of this change. It's something we've talked about for a little while and has been highlighted as not an intended use of this rate to be applied to renewable energy, intermittent renewable energy projects. So I think this is a great demonstration of us listening to the community needs and specifically to empowering businesses to help meet their own energy needs. For example, a solar project installed on the roof could help to reduce both peak demand and to reduce some of the overall consumption. And while we don't know the direct impacts of distributed energy resources in the future, I think we can be quite clear that that is part of the solution, and we need to work to figure out what is the appropriate amount of distributed energy resources. Right now, we would really struggle to pin that down in our own community because there are very few commercial scale projects which would help us to understand how they are impacting our grid. There are some residential scale projects, but I think this really opens up the opportunity to learn more about these new resources and figure out what is the ideal solution as we move forward. So I think this is great. I understand that there will likely be more steps in developing a comprehensive rate for both residential and commercial distributed energy resources in the future, but I think this is a big step forward. And again, following on the success that I mentioned in SD2, I think this also documents that our management and staff have done a great job of listening to the community and being responsive. So I'm very supportive of seeing this accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Williams. Director Yoder.
Echoing what the previous two directors have said, I'm happy that we've been responsive to the community after a good deal of consideration of this. It was identified as an unintended barrier to development and economic development, business utilization of new technologies, and I am very thankful that Vice President Comstock and CFO Fernandez have been working on this and have been shifting the way that these has moved OPPD out of being an obstacle to better energy use by our customers. I am very thankful for that work and look forward to continued improvements. As we saw with the Brattle letter, this is an interim step, and I'm looking forward to much greater things to come. So thank you very much for the work that you've done to make this happen. And again, looking forward to more of it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Director Yoder. Any other board members have comments? Director Williams, I see your hand again.
Yep, I just had a follow-up. I can see in our notes the Brattle letter is included. I'm uncertain if that was included in the public presentation of the documents today for the agenda. Can someone clarify if that letter is publicly available for people to review?
I am making the assumption, and I'll look for Mo just to look at the, or Lisa to look at the online version, but I believe it would have that full packet that would include the data sheet and the supporting material, which would include the letter. If
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay,
Well,
thank
it
you.
was certainly the intention. I'm checking OPPD.com right now.
We'll confirm and verify that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it would typically be in the Tuesday materials in that booklet.
Great. Yeah, we did talk about it in another area on Tuesday, but being the first, best, and most reliable source for information, I feel like this is following that same intention. So thanks very much to staff for that.
Great comment, Eric. Okay, other board members. Janice, I assume your hand raise is stale, as is yours, Rick. Is that true? Okay. Any other board members have comments? Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment as a reminder. So let's go to the next screen so that people can be reminded how to do this. Send us a chat, raise your hand preferably so we can see it. And if you are a phone-in user, please press *3 to raise your hand. Mr. Wishart, I see your hand raised again. So let's go ahead and unmute Mr. Wishart. Maybe he lowered his hand. Did he lower his hand? He must have. So we're going to go on to Edison McDonald. Ryan Wishart, if you meant to provide comments, please just go ahead and raise your hand back up. Mr. McDonald, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. My name is Edison McDonald. I'm Director of Development and Government Relations for GC Revolt, a company that works on renewable energy development. I wanted to thank the board and the staff for working on this important issue. I think, as Director Williams indicated, this is an important first step in helping to allow private business entities like ours to be able to continue to grow and develop. There are a variety of projects that we've previously expressed to the board have been limited due to this policy. We hope that this will be part of a larger movement forward. And secondly, I wanted to just ask the board, we did send a letter to y'all, but wanted to reemphasize the importance as you move forward in this great restructure of looking at PACE, or property assessed clean energy, and figuring out how we can go and make sure that really this will allow the optimal development of renewable energy projects with PACE. Thank you for your hard work and for your service, and for opening this up into a public dialogue. I know not every utility has done that well in this COVID age, and we appreciate that. And thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I appreciate those comments. Any other members of the public wish to speak? I don't see any hands raised. Lauren, have you received any chat requests?
I have not received any chat requests.
Okay. 3-second pause to make sure we've got all the commenters in. And that concludes public comment. Before we vote, I just wanted to remind everyone, I think board members know this, but for general public's purpose, I've recused my involvement from any conversations related to 464 due to a potential conflict of interest. So as we vote, I will be abstaining. Ms. Henners, can you call the roll, please?
Wagner.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mike. Gay.
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Molhoff,
Yes.
Director Moody's abstaining. Williams, Yoder,
Yes.
motion carried. Agenda item 13, assessment of late payment charges, resolution number 6381. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the district's temporary suspension of late payment charges is rescinded. The district shall resume the assessment of late payment charges commencing with July billing statements in accordance with regular district policy, and resolution number 6370 is hereby repealed. Motion and second, please.
So move.
Second.
Who was it that seconded?
I did.
Director County.
All right, another item for me to tee up discussion on. I think that what I want to share before I open it up to my fellow board members is that, again, kind of echoing what I said before, that we're your trusted energy partner. And so as customers are still dealing with the financial fallout related to COVID-19, we certainly want to be there for you to help you where we can. So with that, I'll open it up to my board.
Okay, board members. I don't see any hands raised. There's Director Yoder. So go ahead, Director Yoder.
Thank you. So the end result of all of the comments I'm about to make is that I think it's too soon to be doing this. I do appreciate all of the work that Vice President Comstock and her team have done. They have put into place many mitigating actions on the part of the customer, relations team, and I'm happy about that. I do feel though that this is a hastening of action that we all agreed was necessary in response to the COVID. There are too many indicators for me that the impact of COVID is the full impact of the pandemic is still to occur for me to be able to support a reinstating of the late fee. That coupled with the sense that a late fee may not really bring in the fees, that it may not serve the intended purpose. I have looked for research that shows that it is effective at bringing funds in, and I have not seen it. So it just has a feeling of a debtor's prison kind of thing to me. And so I would just assume that we postpone the rescission of the late fee until we know a little bit what's going to happen with the pandemic and the impacts of the pandemic. That's it. I don't think I will be able to support this resolution.
Thank you for those thoughtful comments, Director Yoder. Director Molhoff, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Director Yoder, I appreciate your comments, and I basically had the same concerns. On Monday, I had long conversations with Ms. Comstock and Mr. Fernandez, and I think that this is the right thing to do, especially since and we'll hear this later, and we heard on Tuesday that the customer service team will have a lot of flexibility for people who are truly impacted by the COVID pandemic. And so I think that care is being taken, that we're not penalizing people who are affected by COVID, and that this will give those people an extra few months if they're willing to call in and work with our customer service folks. And I think that we need to have those customers who have been late for the last few months, make sure that they are contacting our customer service representatives and making arrangements to start paying or to continue to delay those late payment charges as they are impacted by the COVID. So I would hope that this would be a step that would spur people to call and make some arrangements for payment, some payment related action. So that again, I had the same concerns that Rick had, but seeing that customer service folks have some flexibility on applying that late payment fee, I think those concerns were alleviated.
Thank you, Director Mulhoff. Director McGuire, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I agree with Director Mulhoff, and I would suggest to anyone who is concerned about this assessment of late payment charges, take the time to go back to the Tuesday committee meeting and listen to Julie Comstock's presentation on this matter. She spent a great deal of time discussing it in detail. And she gave a very, very potent argument about this. I think we have more and more people coming into arrears. And one thing she mentioned is that they are having fewer and fewer people calling to ask for help. And what we want is people to call in and to ask for help when they feel like they're getting behind in their bills. And the next presentation that you will see later on about income qualified programs, you'll hear even more about how we can help people. I think we've got to get people into the door to call us up and to tell them we're having trouble so we can help them. If we continue to wait month after month and there are thousands of dollars in the hole, that's not going to be where we want to see them. We want to see them now so we can get them into the appropriate social services, help them with energy assistance and other matters, any way that we can help them. Thank you. I am complete.
Thank you, Director McGuire. Well done. We're learning fast. Let's see. So, Director Yoder, I still see your hand up. Do you have additional comments you'd like to make? Go ahead.
I do.
Actually, hold on. Actually, hold on. I saw Director Williams. Let's let him go first, and then we'll come back to you, Rick.
Great. Yeah, thanks. I also do have some concerns here because of the uncertainty we're facing, both from the public health crisis directly, but also because of the economic impacts that are being felt widely, as demonstrated in the turbulence in the stock market today, even though that does not reflect the comprehensive economy. I think the first thing, the most important step is, as Janice highlighted, that the customer service representatives are empowered to provide up to 3 months of waiver if requested from a customer who is facing a late payment charge. And as we highlighted that on Tuesday, I do hope and expect that we will follow through by making that information widely available through our website and through social media, The Wire, hopefully the press release today, all of the normal channels we use to distribute information to our customer owners who might be impacted by some of these policies. Secondly, this would become effective in the middle of July, with late payments showing up toward the end of July and into August when those bills become due. And our next committee meeting and board meeting, including the pre-meetings, will occur before then. And so as we have more information about the ongoing public health situation and the economic conditions, I think we do still have time. And I know it would not be ideal to bounce back and forth with implementing a policy and taking it back and re-implementing. But I think we do still have a chance that if we have new information before next month, before this becomes effective, we could make another decision. And then lastly, to Rick's point, I am very interested in the idea that a late payment charge is not an effective tool for helping to encourage people to be current on their bill or to make payments on bills that they have fallen behind on. I think that is a really important discussion that we should have, but I don't think that something like emergency response that we've got outlined here is the effective way to address the underlying policy of whether or not a late payment charge is effective or economically just or any of the other concerns that might be there. So I would support taking a look at that and understanding what are the ways that we try and encourage, either with a stick or a carrot, people to stay current on their bills so that we don't have lots of non-recoverable debt. But I'm not sure that using an emergency response tool as a way to just extend a policy which we might not fundamentally agree with is the most effective way to get to that end. So I do hope that either the Public Information Committee or the Finance Committee can find an agenda item to discuss the late payment charge in the future. But we had not previously discussed it. And over the last couple of months, we similarly had not discussed whether or not that underlying policy should be changed. And so I don't think that extending an emergency situation is the best tool. So I do think that per staff recommendation and with the considerations that have been provided on Tuesday with the outreach, I do think that this is a reasonable step for us to move forward.
Director Yoder, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you all for your comments. I do appreciate the input. I will suggest that, yes, Director Williams, it is an emergency measure. My point is that the emergency is not over. And I am thankful, once again, that Vice President Comstock and her team have developed other measures. And I do appreciate the comment that let's examine the efficacy of the late fee. And I'm hopeful that we can do that in one of our committees or in future work. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Yoder. Mr. Fernandez, I see your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair Moody. I feel compelled to just add and clarify a concept here. I may not have been as clear as I wanted to be a couple of months ago when we discussed this policy, but there was some mention just a few moments ago about the late payment charge serving two purposes. One, we talked about the carrot and the stick and the incentive to pay on time, which is certainly true. But there's another cost element here. There's a cost recovery element that is tied to the late payment charge. That it is not capricious or arbitrary. It is tied to cost recovery. All of our customer owners are expected to pay their bills on time, and we as a utility, we carry liquidity to carry on with our operations, counting on that revenue to come in on a timely manner. Every time a bill is late, that means that we have to use funds that we have either invested or we have to borrow funds to cover for that amount of time when that bill is not covered. We either incur in interest expense or we forego interest earnings for the remaining of the organization. Those are what I call the carrying costs of late payments. If not recovered that way from the customer who is making a late payment charge, we would have to recover them from the remaining customer base. So I just want to clarify that there is an element of incentive to pay on time, but it's not the only reason why we have a late payment charge. There is a cost causation piece in there that does play into account. If all of our customers paid late, we would incur into a lot more interest expense or forgo interest earnings, therefore costing the entire utility higher expenses. So I felt compelled to make that clarification. That's the end of my comment.
Thank you, Javier. Looking for any additional raised hands from board members or other executive staff. Okay, so before we go to public comment, just a couple thoughts that I have. I really struggled with this, and as VP Comstock knows, on Monday, perhaps Janice and I were having the same conversations, I suppose. But I'm immensely worried about those who are going to really struggle to pay a utility bill. And as you said, Director Yoder, the crisis is not over. It's it's less about, we tied this to directed health measures originally. I understand that, but the reality is like it's the economic impact that people are going to suffer for several months more, if not years. When you look at some of the Federal Reserve projections for when, what the unemployment rate is going to be like at the end of the year. With all of that said, what I'm most interested in is ensuring that we as a public utility are doing everything within our power, within reason, to help people. That is super critical to me. And whether or not we are assessing a late fee starting in mid-July, I understand the business need for us to do that. I also understand for certain the concerns that we generally have with respect to when it's time to do that. It's a really tricky position, but I think I have a clear sense for the work that the team is doing to do everything it can to really help people. So I don't have any doubt that if somebody calls in and they have a challenge with paying a bill, as we've done in years past, right? Like absent COVID, we still had people calling all the time who can't make their bill payments. And I think the team does a really good job of doing everything that they can to work with them. I think we need to continue to be to provide that level of service, if not more, doing everything that we can. I think we need to have a really liberal definition of what a COVID related reason is, because it can be 2 or 3 people removed that's really affecting people in a different way. So I have a good sense that we're going to continue to do that, and that's what allows me to get comfortable with voting on this. The last 2 things that I'll say: we had a quick conversation on Tuesday about the importance of us as a board getting regular feedback, and I think we talked about monthly feedback, grabbing data, analyzing it, understanding what the trends are telling us, so that we can act as nimbly as possible to continue to adjust these things if we need to. So I know that that's going to happen. That's really important to me, so that we know definitively what's happening with respect to that. And then the last thing that I would mention, I can't. I'm a privileged person, and I'm very fortunate, and I can't wrap my head around what it would be like to be in the position where you can't afford a utility bill. So having, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot going on in a person's life when they reach that point. And so part of the challenge, in my view, is likely that that's one of many things that they're struggling with, right? So our challenge is to make sure that those people know to call us. That to me is the biggest hurdle in all of this. Once they call, I know we're going to work with them. But what I fear is that people are just going to, go about all of the other things that they've got to manage and just not call us. And that's the thing that probably worries me the most, is making sure that people know that this option is there, they know to call, and they know that we're going to do everything that we can to work with them. So I know that we're committed to that. I know Julie and you and your team are well aware of and are working on all of those things. It's, for me, knowing that you are in fact doing that gives me, got me to a comfortable enough place to be comfortable to vote yes today. Director Williams, I see your hand up again. Do you want to go ahead?
Just to follow up, as there were several comments about the underlying policy. Craig, can you help us understand where we might see some of that discussion in the future? Is that a public information or a finance committee, or something staff would bring some discussion on? Or, I mean, following on those comments, what should we look for, and what should the public know to expect to see that we are continuing to investigate whether or not the late payment charge underlying policy is the most effective way to manage the bills?
Well, so there, I think there are probably maybe two things here. Well, at least that's my perception. One is, what's the immediate impact of us removing the late payment fee, and that will come through the finance committee. So I assume we'll get that in finance, and then it'll come to the full board in July. Your question about like the efficacy of the late payment fee, again, I think that's, I mean, it's a rate, right? So that's likely to come through the finance committee as well. So I think I'm sure Director Wagner is taking notes. And we'll probably have a conversation at some point with Mr. Fernandez about what some potential next step might be there. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Javier, I see your hand is still up. You need to chime back in. Or are you good? Are you complete? There went his hand. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna pick on you for a moment, Julie. Any clarifications, highlights, anything that you need to add just to make sure that the full story is out there and you've clarified anything?
I don't think there's any clarifications. I really appreciate the support. And again, you know, as we looked at this, this is a transitioning into a next phase. We are moving out of kind of a global application of late payment charges. Yes, they would get assessed on folks' bill, but certainly when they contact us, we're going to work with them. And that was our concern, is when we saw our, I'll say credit related or payment arrangement related calls drop by 56% after we made this announcement. We're not getting people to contact us to reach out for that help. And that's very concerning, because there is assistance that is available, and we just need to help get them connected. So appreciate the support, and just would encourage customers definitely to contact OPPD so that we can help with the bills that they have.
Great. Okay, last call for comments from the board. Seeing none, let's go ahead to public comment. As a reminder, raise your virtual hand or send the host a chat request. Mr. McDonald, you're at the top of my list. So if we can go ahead and unmute. Mr. McDonald, you are up and unmuted.
Sorry, my hand was just still up.
All right, all good. Dr. Corbin is up next. Let's go ahead and unmute Dr. Corbin. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Corbin, are you there?
I'm there. I thought Edison was going. Sorry.
Yep, no, he lowered his hand. You're up, sir.
Oh, okay, sorry. David, my comments are going to be about this item and the next two, because I think they're all interrelated. And I just want to point out, in the committee meeting, I didn't hear, when you talked about legislation, federal or local, any talk about the CARES Act. And I'm wondering if you're weighing in on saying the CARES Act should help the people who can't pay their utilities. The Missouri Valley Group Sierra Club sent a letter to all the Douglas County. And some of you may know Douglas County has $166 million. They're trying to figure out the ways that they're going to spend this. I hope that OPPD is weighing in on that and using it for utilities, so people can stay in having electricity. And it also applies to the next thing relating to unity against racism, because we all know that the people who have been impacted the most by COVID have been people of color. And so I'm hoping you can do that. And as well as the income program update. So I'm hoping that you are doing that. My understanding is there's further federal government money that might be coming forward. I hope that OPPD is at the table for all of these. My understanding is Douglas County is the only one that gets that money separately. The rest of it is for the state. And so I realize that you cover more than Douglas County, but it seems like you could weigh in statewide as well as with the Douglas County commissioners. And I hope that you will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corbin. I can affirm that we did send a letter to Douglas County. Go on to the next public speaker. I have Alan Baboka. For anyone on the phone, as a reminder, please hit *3 if you would like to raise your hand and make a comment. So let's go ahead and unmute Mr. Baboka.
Hello, Alan.
You're good.
Alan Vavoka, 3719 Hamilton. I would like to point out first that there is, as we speak, a crawl line on the OPPD homepage that talks about not assessing late fees until 30 days after the end of directed health measures. And it's coming across now. I can read the part that's in bold. we will suspend all disconnections for non-payment and waive late fees until 30 days after the end of a state-directed health measure. I think if you start assessing late fees next month after rolling this thing right through today, people are going to believe that you're not telling them the truth because you're shifting to a change in phase of directed health measures, not the end of directed health measures. You guys have in the past seemed a little insensitive about how you come across to the public. And I think this is an opportunity to improve your record by changing the crawl line at least 30 days before you change the policy. I don't see how anyone who looked at that today and believed it, knowing that we're already in phase 2, because that happened June 1st, and sees this thing that says, well, the directive health measures must still be in place because they're still running the crawl line, and I've got 30 days until after they end. How is somebody like that going to feel that OPPD was not deceiving them? I know you don't have to respond, but I really think you should take that into consideration. You guys can do this next month if you want to. You can change your crawl line between now and then. But communicating with the public is really a developmental area. It has been for a long time, and it remains so. So please keep that in mind when you vote. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Thank you, Alan. Just a couple comments, and I'm going to turn over to you, Julie, just to kind of describe what the rationale was and the timing issue and with respect to what a directed health measure was. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure that was clear is because the board had already voted on this, we couldn't change that language in advance. They had to wait until we took action on it. So from a legal perspective, we were disallowed from doing that. Julie, can you comment on kind of the arc of directed health measures and what we kind of perhaps knew originally when this was ideated and what changed between now and then?
Yes, so the directed health measures that were in effect when we came to the board in April actually have been superseded by the existing ones, which are really reopening the economy up. And so that's why we're moving forward with this, because the original ones that were in place that essentially shut everything down have been superseded. And so we have honored what we said originally, that we would go 30 days beyond that. And this announcement with this latest phased approach by the state occurred in late May. But I would also like to add that as far as it's still on the crawl, certainly the board still has to vote. And then the other thing is that there'll be a time period. So the board will vote today. It will be effective for July billing. So the first bill that would actually have a late payment assessed on it is in like the third week of July. It would be around July 23rd before any late payment charge would actually get applied to a customer's account. And that would show up on their August bill actually. So there is a delay just in the way the system processes before those late payment charges will show up.
Yeah. I mean, I think just a point of liberty here, I think at the very least, this reinforces the need for us to be super clear and robust about how we're communicating about this. I mean, I fully didn't understand 2 months ago how much our late payment charge was, right? And when it was assessed. So it's complicated and we gotta nail it when it comes to communicating about it. Okay, I see John Pollock's hand raised, so let's go ahead and unmute Mr. Pollock. You are good to go, John.
Thank you. Thank you. John Pollock. I'm going to echo Alan Volka's comments on the crawler that you're running on your web page and suggest that if you really are prevented from implementing the charge any other way, assuming the vote goes through today, that you see about immediately changing that crawl to say that the grace period, something to the effect that the grace period is ending, exclamation point, and making a concerted effort to reach out to all the customers who have been making use of this by phone, email, or both, to make it very clear that the grace period is ending, and that they, you know, instead of waiting for them to reach out to you, since you've publicly said you've got a grace period, I would say that now you will need to reach out to them and say, we've got to talk. We can't carry you any longer, and without working out an alternate arrangement. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Pollock. Great comments. Okay, I do not see any additional hands raised. Lauren, do we have any chat requests for comment?
I do not have any chat requests.
Okay, last call for public comment. Again, the call-in user, please hit *3 if you would like to make a comment. Okay, that concludes our public comment. Ms. Henners, if you could call the roll, please.
Wagner. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Gay.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Olhoff.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Yoder.
No.
Motion carried 7-1. Next agenda item 14, Statement of Unity Against Racism, resolution number 6382. Whereas the death of George Floyd on May 25, 2020 reaffirms longstanding inequities and division that exist both nationally and locally in our society, and whereas a history of racism is painfully present in the everyday experience of Black Americans and many people of color in our criminal justice, education, healthcare, and housing systems, among others. And whereas the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District wish to stand together with our customers, our employees, and the communities we serve to achieve meaningful change to eliminate systemic racism. And whereas the Board of Directors acknowledges that the Omaha Public Power District does not tolerate racism in any form in the workplace or in the conduct of its work. Whereas the Omaha Public Power District will continue to accomplish a robust diversity and inclusion strategy that includes support of employee resource groups, employment programs such as Legacy I3, courageous dialogue to educate and drive empathy and understanding through programs such as the Gatherings for People of Color, the Gatherings for Women, and White Men as Full Diversity Partners, sponsorship of Lead Diversity, and sponsorship of board-level participation in many organizations within our community committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. And whereas the Board of Directors has directed that OPPD shall develop and maintain a diverse and inclusive workplace reflective of OPPD's core values. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District, at a meeting duly convened on the 11th day of June 2020, publicly condemns systemic racism and reaffirms that the Omaha Public Power District will continue to take a leadership role in the pursuit of diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. Make a motion.
Make a motion to go ahead, Mel.
I have a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, was that Director McGuire?
It was Director McGuire.
Okay. So just quick process note here. I'm going to tee this up. I'm going to actually turn it over to Mr. Burke for reasons that will become obvious in a moment. I'll give board members an opportunity to comment. I'm going to make some closing comments. I'll turn over to the public and then we'll vote. So just really quickly, in the interest of teeing it up, I'm afforded the opportunity to talk with CEO Burke on a monthly basis, and I mean that seriously. I appreciate that opportunity. When we talked a week or so ago, naturally there was a lot going on in our community and more broadly in the world and in the United States, and so I asked the question about whether or not a resolution might make sense in this case. Something we had talked about other issues before, which I'll talk about later. But I was super pleased to hear Tim say, Mart, our director of human capital, was already starting to work on it, think about it, pulling things together. So I was really appreciative that we were aligned. So with that in mind, I want to turn it over to you, Tim, to talk a little bit about kind of what your process has been and elaborate on that and other things a little bit, please.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman Moody. On June 1st, after a pretty interesting weekend, certainly around building an Energy Plaza, but certainly in our operations and a number of things going on that Monday morning, we sent a letter to all of our employees. We've done this on several occasions. This one was probably even more direct than other letters have been, whether it was on Me Too, on Charlottesville, on other kinds of activities. And I'm not going to read the whole letter, but I'm going to give you a sense on the message that came from the senior team to our employees. We'll talk a little bit about the resolution. And I'm just going to take a couple excerpts from that. And one of those paragraphs says, as a senior management team, we condemn injustice and discrimination. We are committed to creating a workplace that prioritizes diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility. We will not tolerate hate, racism, or intolerance of any kind. And over the coming months, we kind of go on and talk about some of the things that we're going to be doing, including today, we held one of our leadership huddles that we've been doing during kind of activity just to re-engage our leaders about engaging with our employees. And that topic was going to be on another topic a week ago. And today it was probably 100 or so employees talking about racism. And it was a great opportunity for us to engage around that. I'll finish with this letter just a little bit. We say, we know that the only way we can heal and grow is listening and learning and continuing courageous conversations and cultivating a trusting and inclusive environment with the respect for different perspectives and backgrounds. All employees have the right to feel safe and able to bring their whole selves to work and to be able to voice their ideas and their concerns. And we go on and talk about how we want to help our employees in this letter. I say that as a precursor of that was our senior management team's commitment. And in my conversation with Chairman Moody, it was like, I really think we need to have a board commitment that not only resonates within the organization, but will resonate outside the organization as well. And so we began to craft this resolution. I want to thank Vice President of Human Capital, Mart Sedke, who kind of did that on a weekend where she was trying to get away, allowed the senior management team to engage, allowed the board the opportunity to engage. And this is really important for us. This is a topic that we will also have in our full leaders meeting coming up in a couple weeks as well. And it's certainly on the mind and the interest of our employees. And we are engaging it courageously as a leadership team. And I think that's really important. And the support of the board around this is certainly valuable from the senior management and the management team at OPPD. Kind of coincidentally, not necessarily crafted this way, but earlier this morning at 10 o'clock, the chamber released a kind of a document that is called We Will. And it's a document from our Community Opportunity for Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity work that the chamber has been doing based on Omaha 2040. We created a diversity inclusion initiative, created a committee that focuses in on that. We have several of our employees, including Mart Sedke, Joyce Cooper, others in our organization that are supportive of that. We were supportive of the Lead Diversity Leadership Initiative year. Our manager, our director of talent acquisition, John Stopp, was the OPPD first attendee. We have a couple folks that may be attending in this next year's Lead Diversity. So OPPD has been committed in helping to develop and craft how the chamber and the business community. In our first quarter, we committed to have 4 quarters of CEO meetings to talk about diversity and inclusion. On our first quarter, we had about 60 CEOs, business leaders, managing partners of organizations attend to begin our conversation about diversity. Last week, we had 140 on a Zoom call focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Certainly a resounding commitment about the leaders in this community wanting to engage on this topic in a large way. And out of that came some 6 very focused, yet still needed to be flushed out in more detail, action items about what this organization will be doing and what we will focus in on. So in the paper today, there was over 120 signatories on that. There's probably 150 or more that kind of came in after the date that we needed to have the announcement done. And so you will see that continually grow. But this is becoming a business initiative as well, to collaborate and to partner with a variety of organizations across our community around systemic diversity, discrimination, and racism. And so really appreciate the board taking on this initiative as well. I think it aligns incredibly well with the work we're doing inside the organization, but also the work and the leadership work we're doing in the community as well. And so I just want to thank the board and certainly Chairman Moody for that leadership on that. So thank you very much. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Much appreciated. Board members, I'm looking to you for any comments. Director Bogner.
So this is a topic that I've struggled with talking about both externally and with my own family as I'm raising daughters and want them to be sensitive. And every time I consider how I am perceiving someone and their situation, I'm called back to kind of a mantra that I say as I'm trying to understand someone's situation. And that is, my perception is not your reality. So I need to understand your reality. So I challenge myself to understand that. And it's not something that I try to put on the other person to help me understand that. I need to get there on my own. And so I think that, I'm heartbroken over these events, and I'm heartbroken that we have not made any strides over my lifetime to help end this. And so being in a leadership position as a board member at this organization, I'm very excited about this. And, I think we have to ask ourselves, what more can we do? Because this is just one small step. And hopefully it's one small step in the right direction. So with that, thank you. I'm complete, as Ann says.
Thank you, Director Bogner. Director Gay.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is important. I'm glad we're doing this at this time for sure. One thing I wanted to point out though was that, when you look at our statement here, we were already leaders in this, and I'd commend Tim Burke for sure, leader in the community on this. But OPPD has always been a leader and trying to do a great job in the inclusion and diversity world, as noted by our different things we mentioned here in our resolution. But I just want to say, I think it's the idea we're reaffirming what we're already doing is important at this time. So I commend you for doing this, and I think it's the right thing to do. And I'm glad we're going to continue to be leaders in this role. So that's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gay. Director Yoder.
I think you'll hear echoes of what others have already said. I support the resolution and without reservation. I have a unique advantage. I'm in an age group that has memories of the race riots of the mid to late 60s. I was a young teen at the time. I wasn't living in Omaha. I was living in a town that had 3 TV channels and was able to see what was going on. I was a product of the times, and I recall writing a report for civics class on the 1968 National Advisory Commission report on civil disorders. It did give me, someone who was removed from the unrest, a lens on how to better understand what was going on in 65, 67, 68, and on into the 70s. That Kerner Commission report is, if you look at it today, it's disheartening that many of the findings of that report could have been written yesterday. It's heartbreaking, really. So I'm happy for the opportunity to support this resolution. 50 years is a long time. I think the symbolism is valuable for changing the nature of conversations, for awareness. And I ask myself what more I could do. I'm certain I've missed opportunities over those 50 years. I have had the luxury of being able to focus on other things. Again, I ask more what I can do. It's not my strong suit to challenge myself, as Director Bogner described when talking with me. We shouldn't be too busy to do something here. And we should focus on the root cause. It's easy to ignore if it's distant from your daily activity. I would say, and echo what Director Gay was saying, we can celebrate a lot of success with OPPD. First, the demonstrations, the national demonstrations, do not have the same flavor of what I saw distantly in the city. That's a success. Fueling of the coal plants in North Omaha have led to local and national health benefits by reducing fossil fuel emissions, and more successes on the way. I'm glad to support this resolution, and I'm happy for the work that the leadership, not just Tim, but his entire team and throughout the organization of OPPD in seeking diversity and justice here. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Yoder. That's very great. That's good stuff. Director McGuire, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I echo a lot of what everyone else has said. The one other thing I think that we should really take note of is as far as developing a more diverse and inclusive workplace at OPPD. The majority of our employees are still white. And I really thank Tim Burke and his leadership for trying to develop and increase this diversity. I think it's very, very important. I'll also mention that now that we do have we have women on the board and we have women in management, we still don't have people of color on our board. And anyone who is listening of color, I please encourage you to get politically involved, not only at OPPD, but at all other public areas. Anything that you can get involved in, please do. I think we have to continue to work on this. Thank you. I am complete.
Thank you, Director McGuire. Director Molhoff.
I just have one final comment, and certainly support what everyone else has said. But I'll say the same thing I said when we passed SB7. This is the easy part, passing a resolution. The hard part is what we do every day to make sure that what we're doing, what we're saying, the actions that we're taking is not causing inequity for any other person. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Director Molhoff. Director Williams.
Great, thank you. Protests against structural racism aren't confined to faraway places in other communities like Minneapolis. James Scurlock was killed on a public street here in Omaha. His family lives in my district. With national and international stories, including another one today, too many people around the world, Omaha is a faraway place where something terrible has happened. Addressing the legitimate demand for societal change while in a turbulent economic recession caused by a worldwide pandemic is not something that anyone could have prepared for. Still, the movement for racial justice cannot and must not be expected to wait. Structural racism doesn't mean just horrible actions by bad people, while the rest of us can take comfort in believing that we are good people and free from responsibility. Just because we did not personally engage in overt acts of violence does not absolve us from taking action. White people must not pretend that it is the responsibility of Black community leaders, influencers, residents, and other people of color to enact necessary changes. Because of structural racism, Black people and people of color have long been denied access to decision-making authority and power within our institutions and public agencies, and fixing the damage that it has caused is not up to the very communities that have been impacted by racially unjust systems. Programs that OPPD has developed and expanded are admirable and demonstrate leadership in our community, but our work is far from complete. As directors, management, and staff at a public agency, we all have a responsibility to recognize, understand, and change our individual and collective actions that contribute to the system of racism. We also have a responsibility to recognize when policies are inequitable, and we have a responsibility to work to fix them. I have a personal commitment to do that, to recognize that I too still have a lot of work to do. Recognition of justice, which was perpetrated against George Floyd and James Scurlock, is critical. They both should still be alive today. Speaking their names, changing the systems which led to those unconscionable outcomes, and improving our public power district are how we can remember their lives and honor our community. And most importantly, we need to remember that it's not about a resolution, it's not about a prepared statement, but it's about doing that work. So thank you for this, staff, and I appreciate the work of everyone toward meeting these objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Williams. Directors, any other additional comments? Okay, I'll be quick. I've got a couple of thoughts that I'd like to share. One of the things that I've appreciated the most about this board since joining it 3 years ago is how laser focused we are on achieving our mission. We don't get distracted easily. And even over the last 3+ years, our country's gone through quite a bit of turmoil. And through it all, we as a body have never really weighed in on, these quote unquote external issues unless they were directly related to our work. Now, that's not to say that pursuing unity and fighting racism doesn't align with our mission. It absolutely does. And many of you have made that point very clear today. I simply offer this as context to underscore how important this particular resolution is. OPPD should absolutely take the lead on pursuing a society that is racially just for everyone. But let's be clear, this is not an all lives matter statement. Black Americans have suffered through unthinkable oppression since 1619, and it continues to this day with, among other atrocities, the deaths of George Floyd and James Scurlock. The laws, the policies, the systems in this country are not equal for all people. Life as a Black American is far more difficult and dangerous than the privileged life that I live. It is our duty to ensure that we do everything we can to turn our society towards one that is racially just. No question, OPPD is a leader when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion in this community. There's no question about that. What's also not in doubt is that we can do more. And many of you have said that. We should and we will continue to work to listen, to learn, to support, act, and to lead. Thanks for everybody that's been involved in this. Thanks for the comments from all the directors. This is the second board meeting in a row where I've gotten emotional, so let's not keep that trend up. But this is super important stuff, and I really appreciate the way in which we've all approached this. Okay, before we take public comment, any last comments from the board? Okay, let's open it up for public comment on this resolution. I see Mr. Vivolka's hand up. Let's go ahead and unmute him.
Alan Vivolka, 3719 Hamilton. I was really glad to hear what Tim Burke reported on what has happened at OPPD or what OPPD's been doing since June 1st. The new things that have been happening with OPPD, I think, are important because the way this resolution reads, it sounds like a limp claim that, well, we've been doing our part and we're going to stick with the status quo and just keep doing it. That's not what's happening here. And I'm glad to hear that it's not what's happening, but it certainly does sound that way to someone who just reads through the document. A little self-congratulatory. So I recommend that we get monthly reports from OPPD on what the new things that are being done are. And it sounds like Mr. Burke is on the right track here, making progress in that direction. And I would suggest that OPPD publicly take credit for changes that have occurred as a result of the obvious need to pass this resolution. And that includes things like dealing with OPPD's policies as they relate to poor people. It's clearly not OPPD's fault that a high percentage of people of color are poor, and OPPD's policies are entirely colorblind on being insensitive to poor people of any racial background. But I think in the larger context, we need to keep that in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Volka. Other members of the public who would like to comment on this resolution? I see Mr. Wishart has his hand up. Let's go ahead and unmute him.
Hi, I'm pleased to see OPPD's responding to the current protests over police brutality and racial inequality. As a Creighton faculty member, I teach about how sociologists understand the way institutions and social structures create and reproduce racial inequalities beyond individual actors. So rather than internal personnel policy, I'm going to focus on those. As Dr. Williams has said, addressing structural racism means re-examining what appear to be neutral actions or non-decisions as in fact being choices that could be otherwise and in practice reproduce or expand racial inequality regardless of intent. I hope board and staff will take this moment to think about how OPPD may have played a role in the racial inequalities present today, irregardless of the role conscious racial prejudice played or didn't play in those decisions. From the health impacts of the North Omaha coal plants to the shifting of costs onto low-income, disproportionately non-white households via the 2015 rate restructure, which, as I recall, I heard members of the public raise before the vote. And consider what the district can do to make restitution and reparations for its role in perpetuating and expanding those health and income inequalities. For example, the externalized costs of cheap coal power were disproportionately felt in non-white parts of Omaha. But we can expect from what sociology and economics research tells us about the gains from economic growth that any economic benefits of business recruitment, et cetera, associated with those lower power costs were disproportionately lower among those impacted communities and disproportionately higher among whites. I'll save some comments I have on income eligible programs related to the goal of affordability for after Tim Burke's presentation, but as sociologist Kianga Yamada-Taylor has recently written in the New York Times and the New Yorker magazine, addressing racial inequality at the root of these protests requires, but is not limited to, addressing economic inequality. So the effectiveness of programs to lower bills through efficiency or subsidies, access to LIHEAP, et cetera, that effectively reach low-income households will disproportionately benefit areas like North and South Omaha. So even where eligibility is based on income, OPPD can prioritize outreach and promotion in communities impacted by structural racism beyond income levels. Beyond income-related programs, for one example, incentives for electrical lawn equipment might help improve summer air quality in communities historically impacted by pollution. And those impacts occurred regardless of a household's income from electrical generation. So those types of thinking about how can we make restitution for those environmental impacts might be the beginning of addressing those past inequalities while meeting other sustainability-related goals.
Okay, great comments. Thank you, Mr. Wishart. Any other members of the public share public comments on this resolution? Or any chat requests?
I don't have any chat requests right now.
Okay, very good. I don't see any additional hands raised, so let's go ahead and call the public comment period concluded. Ms. Henners, could you call the roll, please?
Bogner.
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh.
I unmuted him.
Director Kavanaugh.
I think we'll need to add an abstention.
Gay.
Yes.
McGuire. Molhoff.
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Williams.
Director Williams?
Yes.
I could see you.
Yes.
Director Yoder.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, I'm gonna intervene here just for a moment. We've been going for an hour and 40 minutes before two topics. I think given that we're all just kind of probably sitting in our kitchen chairs, we should get up and walk around for a moment. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. I have 5:30. So let's just plan to round it to 5:45. So let's reconvene at 5:45.
Mo?
Yes.
You can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now. I could see you motioning, but I could not hear you.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to check.
Folks, we got about 1 minute. Okay, I've got 5:45. I just want to make sure we've got a quorum. I see Mr. Gay, Mr. Williams, Ms. Bogner, Ms. Molhoff.
Chair Moody.
Yoder. Yes.
So I think what happened with Director Kavanaugh left, I believe, after the late payment charge vote.
Okay.
He did not log out of the meeting though, so that's why he still appears.
Okay.
And Director Bogner has indicated that she may need to leave. Is that correct?
Okay.
Correct, but if there's a quorum issue, I will stay.
Yes.
Nope, we should. We're done with action items, so we should be good. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Director McGuire, I assume you're still with us. We'll find out. Okay. We are on to, I think, Tim Burke, you want to tee this one up?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Julie Comstock. She's going to talk about some of the work her team's been doing, and then introduce Britton Gable, that I know the board has heard from Britton before, who came from the state of Nebraska, working on LIHEAP in their and a variety of other programs in their energy office. So Julie.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity for my team to share some of the awesome work that they've been doing. You've heard bits and pieces of it as we've discussed the late payment charges, the customer first solutions, and the SD2, the affordability aspect of that. And I'm really pleased to have Britton Gable, our senior product specialist here from our product development team. And his focused area is really on kind of everything that has to do with account management. And a big part of that, and something that he's extremely passionate about, is this income qualified programs. And so Britton joined us at the early part of 2019. And in the short time he's been here, he has overhauled our energy assistance program, our Smart Steps to Energy Savings, doing a pilot on that program. And so he has great results here to share and give the board an update on where we're going with those programs. And I'm not going to speak any longer because Britton has all the passion here on these topics and will do a wonderful job presenting. So Britton.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Tim, for the introduction. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to go ahead and present on the subject of our income qualified program. I am looking forward to sharing the success that has been occurring over the last few months as the OPP team has moved forward to refine the current programs that we offer. You can go to the next slide. So today I'm going to give you an overview of the income qualified program that has a number of products and services that can help people experiencing financial difficulties with paying their utility bills or looking to save energy through an energy efficiency means. I'll be providing an update on the work that we've been doing over the last year, then dive into our energy assistance program, the changes that have happened, and where we're going with that in the future. I'll be also giving an in-depth update on the income qualified pilot, which is a pilot that we're doing. It's a weatherization program in our service territory, and what's going to be the next steps with that in the future. You can go to the next slide. So currently within our income qualified program, we currently offer 5 products and services to assist our income qualified customer class and also those that are experiencing financial challenges. We have our own energy assistance program that is funded by our generous employees and donors throughout our community. that we offer to impact the lives and help people reduce the energy burden that they're experiencing. We're also an active utility company that participates in the LIHEAP program, which we receive approximately $4.8 million a year to help customers with their utility bill. We also have our pilot program, which is a weatherization program to assist those that are income qualified, that are homeowners looking to reduce their energy burden through energy efficiency upgrades in their home, and learn about other behaviors that they can do to help reduce their utility costs. We also have the LULI credits, the low use, low income credit, that has been offered since June of 2016. We also have a Safe Neighbor program. We all know that there's been a lot of storms lately. This is a program that's there to help our customers that are experiencing disconnection of electricity from their house. And then also we have 2 budgeting type services that we offer. We have a level payment plan, also those payment plan arrangements. So customers that are getting behind, we can be flexible with them to assist them with getting caught up on their utility bill. You can go to the next slide. All right, so this is the really exciting stuff that I'm looking forward to share with the board and the senior management team of the public. So over the last year, we've really focused our efforts to find efficiencies, opportunities for growth, expand relationships, and improve our current program portfolio within the income qualified arena. In September 2019, we launched a low-income energy efficiency pilot. As a result of that program design, we are awarded a $50,000 grant through the American Public Power Association. I'll expand on this pilot more in a little bit. Part of this is that we completed a request for proposal to include that we were covering not just our metro and inner city customers, but our rural customers as well. We've also went through an energy assistance program administrative change. Part of that process was completing a full program evaluation and a RFP. And also we wanted to really determine the best model to administrate those funds to our customers in need throughout our service territory. Then also, we've really focused on our partnership with the state of Nebraska and MUD regarding the LIHEAP program, which is a federal block grant that the state of Nebraska administers, to really improve our processes to ensure that that money's getting to that customer, getting put on that customer bill timely, and also ensure we're working together as utility companies to ensure that the LIHEAP program is something that's accessible to our customers. You can go to the next slide. So now I'm really excited to talk about the Energy Assistance Program and the hard work that the OPPD team's been doing over the last year. So the one thing I want to explain about our program, as we assessed it and did a comprehensive evaluation, we really wanted to have a program with a mission to where it's something that's accessible across our entire service territory. It's responsive, so that means customers can access it. Application timeframes are reduced, and we're getting people their benefits timely, and also something that's impactful to the lives of our vulnerable customers that are in need. So as we evaluated our program, it identified, we together as a team identified a number of opportunities and enhancements. So the one thing that we wanted to make sure to do is to really leverage our community nonprofit members, not just Omaha, Papillion, but in our rural area, to ensure that we improved our customer experience for our customers that are struggling to pay their bill. We really want to increase access to our program. We wanted to have our customers if they could go to a nonprofit down the street, or they could call and apply by phone. We wanted to ensure that we provided the most efficient means for them to apply. The other part is really streamline referral. So we wanted to empower our reps to be able to refer our customers, and also provide additional resources in the community for our customers to be informed about the program. The other thing that we assess is really our program eligibility requirements, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. The other key thing is really to have improved reporting and performance metrics. You know, during today's board presentation, there's been a lot of discussion about ensuring that we're getting into the communities to serve individuals that are hard to reach places that haven't typically been reached, to ensure that we're getting into communities that are underserved. So now we have reporting tools and the ability to look at the data to ensure our program is accessing areas within our community that really need to be reached and our program needs to be available to. The other thing is that we've updated our website. We've created new marketing materials that I'll kind of give a glimpse of a little bit in this presentation to be able to get a quick, simple message to our customers about our program. One thing I want to highlight is that we wanted to ensure that when we updated our program, we have a partnership with MUD at OPPD at Energy Plaza and working with them. So we wanted to ensure that when we were updating our energy assistance program, that we worked with our other large utility partner here within the metro area. So we reached out to MUD as a part of this process. They agreed to join us in this process of program evaluation and join the team. And they actually participated in the RFP process to where we identified a new administrative agency at OPPD, and they were able to make that decision for themselves as well. We can go to the next slide. Now, I want to kind of give you an overview of how the program works at OPPD now and its current state. So our program is actually distributed through a network of community-based organizations that are managed by Dollar Energy Fund, who is our new administrative agency effective May 1st. So what this means is that nonprofits throughout our service territory can sign up to have access to our funding to meet the needs of the individuals coming to them for utility assistance. So this is a big shift to where we are increasing access locations throughout our service territory, both metro, urban, and rural, to ensure our customers that are struggling to pay their utility bills have access to our program. So we really want to keep these relationships local. We have a number of fantastic nonprofits that are doing great work throughout our service territory. We wanted to give them access to another funding source to be able to meet the needs of our customers. So just a little bit of success, and I'll show this in a little bit. We currently have 33 nonprofits throughout our service territory that are signed up to administrate our program and have access to our funding. That's from 9 with our previous administrative agency, and this is still growing in the sign up. A little bit about our program criteria. So our previous program standard, our maximum benefit that our program paid was $300. We increased that to $500. We wanted to align ourselves with industry standards and ensuring that we were using this pot of money to really help customers that are in need. So we had to really increase that threshold to $500 to ensure we're making enough funds available to help customers reduce that energy burden. Another thing that we looked at, we also established a household income criteria of 200% of the federal poverty level. That is something that we wanted to clearly establish, but I want to make clear that until September 30th of 2020, we've actually waived that income criteria due to COVID-19. We have a lot of our own customers that are impacted by COVID-19, so we wanted to be flexible in that income criteria if they've lost a job or they've experienced illness due to COVID-19, family member was out of work due to illness, to where we'd have the capacity to be able to help them. So the other part of the program criteria is that eligible customers who are experiencing acute financial crisis. So this is really our means of eligibility. So it means illness, death, layoff, domestic violence, loss of income. You have a family member that's disabled that can't work to help pay those utility bills. Those are examples. So a question that came in on the chat, just so I can answer this on this slide, it's $500 per program year. That program year runs October 1st through September 30th. So a customer is entitled to $500 per program year. Thank you for the question. You can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to show you a quick glimpse of where we were in April and where we were May 1st with our program change. So you will see through this is just sharing the success of the change we made to our program. You will see in the left-hand heat map of the coverage that we have throughout our community. So this is based on zip codes of where nonprofits that are signed up are located. So you will, on the right-hand side, you will see our prior stay with our program as of April 30th. You will see where our access locations were. So this is a drastic improvement. And like I said, we are continuing to recruit to fill these gaps to ensure our customers throughout our service territory have access to our energy assistance program. You can go to the next slide. So now I really want to touch on who Dollar Energy Fund is. So they are a new administrative agency as of May 1st. They are a nonprofit that has been doing this work since 1983 throughout the country. They're committed. Their mission as a nonprofit is to really improve the quality of life of households that are experiencing hardships through utility assistance, and they also provide other services to help lead to self-sufficiency. They were founded in 1983. They actually have a software called iPartner that they built over the years that's nation leading, that streamlines the process for money that's donated to the program to actually get applied to customer accounts. So that's an efficiency that we've gained through this partnership. They currently provide services in 15 states with 45 other utility companies throughout the country. This is their bread and butter. They process 30,000 house applications across the country in utility assistance for different utility partners. The other thing about Dollar Energy Fund, with the changing political landscape around energy assistance and low-income customers, we need to be in a position to where we're agile as a utility company, and we have the right partnership to where, let's say we have a change in legislation in Nebraska, we can adapt quickly because Dollar Energy Fund has experience working in other states where there's different regulatory environment with assistance to low-income customers, et cetera. So we position ourselves with a partner really for the future. You can go to the next slide. This is really a glimpse of these new marketing materials that we have, and you're going to see these throughout our community. We're going to have flyers available. We've updated our website on OPPD.com. We're in the process of getting more materials out there. But the one thing I really want to highlight is truly the purpose of our program. We really want to help people get the power on. It's not just about the lights. It's about the air conditioner. It's about keeping, if they have health and safety things in their home to help their medical issues. It's about keeping their lives comfortable to really help them live the life that they want to live. So you can go to the next slide. So what is our future? So, I've talked a lot about the changes we made to our program, but I'm going to be honest with you, we're just starting. It's been a lot of work to this point. You guys saw the map a couple slides ago. We have to continue to recruit more nonprofits to be partner with this program. We got to fill those gaps and ensure our customers throughout our service territory have access to this funding that we raise through our customers and we raise through our employees. The other thing is that we're really focusing on our donation strategy. This program is 100% funded through the generous donations. So, one thing I want to talk about here is really we want to raise more funds, and we've really started a lot of that donation strategy, and Tim Burke will highlight that in his president's report. The next thing, we're going to create a program dashboard as a result of our new data that we're getting. So with this program update, we now have real-time data that's available daily regarding our program to where we can report performance of, okay, what type of customers, what are the circumstances they're facing, what areas are we reaching? So we're going to be developing a program dashboard. We're going to be doing marketing campaigns about our energy assistance program. A lot of this has already happened with the customer solutions campaign. We've really tried to let people know and our customers know about our energy assistance program, not just from application standpoint, but also from a donation standpoint. And we're going to continue to look at process improvement here. We want to continue to look at this program, look at the data, and improve. We're just starting something very powerful here and really good in our community. And we want to continue to take steps with the data that we see to continue to improve. So I got a question here about how much money is provided through the EAP annually. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this question right now. So in 2019, we distributed around $252,000 to $252,000 that benefit 934 households throughout our service territory. So we're raising over $200,000 a year to assist the needs and meet the needs of our customers that are experiencing financial hardship. Then I got another question here about whether or not OPPD contributes. So OPPD, based on regulation, can't do a donation to their own energy assistance program. But with that being said, OPPD does pay the admin costs. So any customer that donates to this program or employee, 100% of that donation goes to someone in need. So OPPD, their contribution is paying for the admin costs associated with administrating the program. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right, I'm going to pause really quick and see if we have another question here related to EAP. So I got a question about what is the gap between $252,000 and the perceived need. To answer your question, the need is great. That's why we're going to continue to focus on our donation strategy and really work together. We now have a partner that we can really work with as well to go look at foundations and try to look at other donation strategies to really increase this funding that is available to our customers. So, so the gap, I don't know the dollar amount gap to answer that question specifically, but yes, we need to continue to raise more funds because the funding that we have is not enough to meet the need that's out there throughout our community. So now I'm excited to really talk about the pilot program and our it's a weatherization program, but our income qualified energy efficiency pilot. So I'm going to talk about what this program is and really that strategy around this program and the difference that it's making in our community right now. So our purpose behind this program is that we want to help customers improve the energy efficiencies of their home and also help them reduce energy consumption and lower their bills. So what are the eligibility requirements of this program? That income threshold is set at 200% of the FPL. So I want to go ahead and give you what that number is. So for a household size of 4, that is those are families that in that situation are making $51,500 less per year. So I wanted to give everybody just that number of what that federal poverty level limit is for a household size of 4. So the customers, the way the program's currently set up, they must own their home and they must actually be an OPPD customer throughout our service territory. So what does this program do? We go out, our contractors go out and they complete a BPI, so Building Professional Institute certified audit. Okay, so we have BPI auditors that go out into a home and conduct a full-scale energy assessment, okay, to identify energy efficiency upgrades. This is entered into the NEAT tool, which is a national energy audit tool, to go ahead and filter and provide a report to the household of the energy efficient, the performance of their home, and the measures that are available to help reduce their utility bill. So the other thing I want to know is that the customers who participate in this program, they receive an energy efficiency kit that has different energy efficiency items in it, such as LED light bulb. It has behavior change information in it regarding things that they can do to help reduce their utility bill. It has weather stripping and outlet cover insulation or outlet insulation covers. So it's another tool to teach homeowners practices that they can do to help reduce their consumption. The other part is that based on that energy assessment that I talked about, OPPD is paying for up to $1,000 of energy efficiency improvements in this home performed by our contractor. So, so this is something to where, based on that audit, let's say rim joist insulation came up as something that a measure that has a good savings to investment ratio. That means that measure will actually generate enough utility savings, more than enough utility savings to pay for itself. So this audit tool allows us to make quality, high-performing investments in these customers' homes with that $1,000. So you can go to the next slide, please. So one thing, I did get a question, is there any customer match? There is no customer match to this program. OPPD is paying for that $1,000. Customers do not have to contribute. And I want to let everybody know that $1,000 is outside. OPPD is also paying for that energy audit. So just to make that clear, so it's a $1,000 investment plus we're paying for the energy audit. So now I want to introduce our program contractors that cover our entire service territory. So Habitat for Humanity of Omaha and Southeast Nebraska Community Action Partnership are our program contractors. So these are nonprofits in our service territory that are providing the services related to this program. So they have certified BPI auditors on staff that go out and perform these audits. They have both their own crews and also other contractors that do the installation of the energy efficiency measures. But I want to touch on one key point, that both of these contractors also have access to the state weatherization program that's funded by LIHEAP and the Department of Energy, that allows us as a program, and I'll share this in a little bit, to really maximize funding available in our community because we all know $1,000 is $1,000. So what other resources are available to help these customers, and how can we leverage and partner with other programming in our community and in our state? So next thing I want to touch on, so when I began the presentation, I talked about this grant that we received from the American Public Power Association. So the purpose of this grant is that we actually wanted to increase the energy efficiency measure investment to $2,000 per home. So what's the reason why? This is a pilot program. We want to study, if we increase this investment by $1,000, what additional energy savings can we generate through this investment? So the purpose of this $50,000 grant is to really do a study to examine the data and the audit data regarding what investments and is our investment that we're making adequate for the homeowners that we're serving. So there will be 50 homes that will receive this additional funding beginning in March of 2020. We did already start serving some homes, but due to the pandemic, we had to hit pause based on the DHMs, the directed health measures. So we had to put pause on the program at that time. So I got a question. How did OPPD last poll adequately determine? Rick, can you explain your question?
How do you calculate adequate in that last bullet?
So that is a great question. So once we start gathering data, we're going to set the measures that we're getting on our customers. Like, for example, so let's say out of these 50 homes, we see that attic insulation, rim joist insulation, these are some costs that can fluctuate depending on home size. So it can be greater than $1,000. So we're actually going to look at that audit data that we have to determine the cost, the average cost that we're seeing based on these measures that are coming up, and the number of measures that we have, because there's other measures. So we know that door ceiling, window replacement can generate energy savings as well. So we're going to look at the entire audit and the money that we're investing within that $2,000 to see what type of energy savings we can gain. So we're doing $1,000 investment right now, and I'll show the success of what that $1,000 is doing in our community. But with that being said, we want to see, are there measures, because we limited it, our program cap is $1,000 right now, what additional measures that we can capture by increasing that? So we can go to the next slide. All right. So before I start going over and highlighting the success that's going on with this dashboard, I want to tell you a quick story of a customer that was served by this program through this pilot program. So I had an elderly lady that contacted me directly at OPPD. She found information about the pilot program on the website. So we referred her to Habitat for Humanity Omaha, and they went out and they did an energy audit. When they completed this energy audit on her home, the flue for the furnace and the water heater was disconnected in her attic entirely. That's a health and safety issue that existed in this household. Okay. So with this health and safety issue that we ran into, we were able to use this funding to mitigate that health and safety issue. And in return, this lady actually, based on the partnership we have, is eligible for the weatherization program, the state weatherization program, to go ahead and do those energy efficiency investments based on the audit. So we were able to, based on her eligibility criteria, she was also eligible for this other resource. So this going into these homes just isn't about energy efficiency measures. When a BPA audit is completed, there's health and safety issues that come out. Is the home properly ventilated? Is the airflow correctly? So this is the piece that we're also seeing in the homes that we're going into, that we're working with our customer, that our contractors working with our customers on to mitigate and deal with. So I want to tell that story because we had an opportunity to make a difference in this elderly lady's life. And the whole thing is, if she wanted to participate in this program, she would have never known that that was disconnected. And her house actually was so poorly insulated that there was enough draftiness to take those CO2 levels out. But if that wasn't the case, it'd be a total different story. So it's not just about weatherization. It's also about networking and working with these customers and trying to make sure that health and safety issues are being dealt with at the same time. So now I want to share the performance of this program. So I want to share that currently, based on the 32 homes that we have installed measures on, we are currently saving $163 per home. So that is not just that's combined utility costs between electric. So let me take a word back. So this $163 is based on electric costs. This isn't based on the BTU savings on the heating end. The other thing I want to note, we've saved 62,613 kilowatt hours so far through the pilot. This data is from September 2019 to March of 2020. The one thing I want to highlight about this, where does this data come from? This data comes directly from the NEAT tool, so that National Energy Audit tool that our contractors to audit and to identify the measure. So this is where this stuff comes from. So the other thing I want to note is, so when you look at our program, so when you look at a full year comparison, in 2018, we only served 21 homes in a year. Okay, we upgraded 21 homes. We did 36 audits. Based on those audits, we upgraded 21 homes. In a matter of 6 months, we completed 35 audits and we installed measures in 32 homes, and we have 10 homes that are in progress. Of course, that work's been paused due to the pandemic. I'll talk in a little bit about resuming that. But I just want to show the difference that this pilot's making and the amount of people that we're able to serve and have impact on. The other thing I want to highlight is really the demographic information. So as you can tell, this is based on customers that have been referred in to the program. So we are reaching our elderly population, customers that are disabled. We are getting into families. We are getting into non-white households. And the other thing is, I want to share that from a geography perspective, if you look at this map, you'll see it's not just Omaha. We're getting into our rural areas and also helping our rural customers as well achieve energy savings through audits and the installation of energy efficiency measures through this program. So you can, oops, sorry, there's another question here. Let me see. Sorry. And does this, sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty here. 2 seconds.
I think it does. The city of Omaha have any energy efficiency programs, Britton? The question.
Okay, good question. Not to my knowledge, at this time, there currently isn't anything that is offered. So, all right, we can go to the next slide. So now I really want to focus in on what does this program look like in the future, as what has been discussed in the board meeting. You know, we have a pandemic on our hands. So what is we are going to continue this pilot post-pandemic. So we did pause pilot production on March 15th. Our both Habitat and Southeast Nebraska Community Action Partnership has begun doing energy audits again. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So they received COVID-19 training through the DOE weatherization program on safety measures related to COVID-19 to start going into people's home. But if people aren't comfortable, it's not happening. So, you know, this is going to be up to the comfortability of our customers in the program. And also they've been trained on how to go into our customers' home. The other thing is we're going to look at we're going to do a marketing campaign regarding our program, because we do have people throughout our service territory whose income situation has changed that can possibly make them eligible for the program. And also, this is also a way to get into people's homes and also help them reduce their energy costs and provide some education. So what are really the next steps? So we're going to analyze these pilot program results to really determine what that permanent solution is. So we got this additional grant that we're using for this additional energy efficiency measure investment. So when you look at that, we're going to have data available to really make a determination of what a permanent solution really looks like moving forward. And then we're going to prepare an action plan to sunset the Smart Steps branded program. And then we are going to have a formal communication plan to announce and release a new program based on the pilot success in January 21. And then the one thing is we're going to continue to analyze the data, monitor and report results. So the dashboard that we have, we're going to continue to use this dashboard moving forward as a way to report the work that's being done in our community and through this program. You can go to the next slide. So that wraps up my presentation to share the success that has been going on with the pilot and also the changes that we made to the energy assistance program. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to present today, to share some of the success that's been going on. Is there any questions?
I see Director Williams' hand up.
Thanks for the update. Appreciate it. You mentioned that the pilot was to expand the availability of funding from $1,000 to $2,000, and then you showed some savings in the upper right-hand corner, that it was $85 pre-pilot and $163 post-pilot. So it seems like twice as much investment, roughly twice as much savings per home. I guess that's good. Is the intention of the new program, which you talked about in the last slide that would be rolled out, to continue the expanded availability of funding up to that $2,000 level into the future? Is that the intention?
So great question, Director Williams. That is something, yes, that we are considering, because, you know, I think we all know that certain measures cost a certain amount, whether it's attic insulation, door replacement, window replacement, the measures that come up in an audit. So truly, based on this grant and having this excess dollars, we're going to be able to determine really where we need to go next from a funding stream perspective and investment per home.
And then as a follow-up, do we have a number of people who are, is there a waiting list? Do we know how many people are requesting these services? Eligibility is one thing, but then completing the application or the request is second. So is going from 1,000 to 2,000 going to extend the wait list?
So great question. So we've had 76 customers referred into the program so far. So the one thing about those 76, so these are customers that were income eligible, ready to be served. They're homeowners, our customers. Some of these customers have declined to participate as a result of COVID. So as we've reached out to them, but the other part is, so we currently have 42 homes that we're in. So we completed 32 of them. There's another 10 that are in progress. So Habitat does have homeowners that they were scheduling for audits that were going to be conducted in March that did not happen. Same thing with Cinca. So we do have some customers that we're still working with, but our goal with this pilot is that we want to get into 150 homes.
Great, thank you.
Eric is complete. Mr. Yoder.
So there are a couple of great here, Britton, and I'm really happy about this report. And thank you very much for sharing. The EAP program, I'm about the expansion into the rural areas. I think we've seen some data that shows that 10 of the 13 counties in the OPPD service area, I recognize that OPPD does not serve everybody in each county, but 10 of the 13 counties have a higher than average energy burden, according to the home energy affordability gap studies. So it's great to see that we're reaching out into those rural areas, and I'm really excited about that expansion and the partnerships that you formed. On the pilot program, it's exciting to see that there are greater savings, and I'm really happy about that. I wonder what other learnings or other potential plans are that you have for that program. Are you going to stick with homeowners, or are you going to try to tweak the program to reach out to renters at some point?
That is a great question. So, when you look at the market base and other utility companies across our district, service area, and across the country, a lot of times these programs are divided. So there's a program for homeowners, then there's a program for renters. But as a part of our evaluation, so Rick, to answer your question, renters, apartment complexes, there are opportunities for energy savings to benefit these customers. So as we evaluate this program and the evaluation that has took place, some of the feedback that we have been getting is, what about can renters participate in this program? So we're currently looking at what does that look like to have a program for renters, landlords. That is part of future work that we're looking at in the future. So.
Rick, are you good? Yes. Okay. I don't see any other hands. I've got 3 questions. I'll ask them one at a time and let you respond, and then get to it. This is a slight diversion, but I'm just kind of curious. The Luli was mentioned earlier. I don't know. Do we have concrete plans for what that was originally intended to expire? What are our plans for the Luli program going forward? Do we have clarity around that?
So the Luli program expires December 31st of 2021. So that is something that going into the next year, we'll be looking at other solutions regarding that program from a customer assistance program perspective. So that is part of the future program evaluation and looking at what other things as a utility company that we can do to help our customers.
Great, thank you for that. Next question. You got you said the target was getting into 150 homes. That's a pretty substantial increase from where we are. It's also a pretty small portion of the total number of customers that are perhaps eligible, I suppose. I don't know what that difference is, but there's some pretty meaningful scaling there, right? What are the barriers to success here? Is it the third-party philanthropic funding? Is it the CBO partnerships? Like what are the keys that will get you from where you are to the next level?
So from the pilot program perspective, honestly, the biggest barrier has been COVID-19.
Sure.
We had production going really well with both Habitat and Cinca based on the audits that they were completing per month and the energy efficiency upgrades. We were doing great work in our service territory, and COVID-19, we had to put the brakes on that. So, and they're both excited to get back out and doing this work in the community. So we do have to evaluate that 150 because we've had 2.5 months of no services being provided due to COVID-19. But with that being said, it's not the funding piece. It's really the community and the comfort level of our customers to get access. There's enough people that are eligible. That's not the issue. It's really with this new normal of entering in with the lifting of the directed health measures and the new ones. Like, do people feel comfortable? Do our customers feel comfortable with us going into their home? Then also contractors and working with them and their comfortability. So really it's getting the pilot back in motion and the traction it had and the production is really the biggest barrier that we have as a result of the pandemic.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Okay, last question. I promise, Britton, this is not a quiz. But I think for us as board members, something that is always important for us to think about is how all of this rolls up to our strategic directives. So I guess I'm kind of curious in your mind, are there certain strategic directives that for you are kind of guiding this work, framing the work, pointing you in a particular direction?
That's a really good question. So one of the strategic directives that was talked on today with rates and affordability. So energy assistance, weatherization programs really help in that affordability arena to reduce the energy burden for customers that do not have, based on their financial circumstance, enough funds to be able to pay their bill in the fullest capacity that they desire to. And then another one is environmental stewardship, and another one is customer satisfaction. So really, and then the other thing is, this is really OPPD living out their core values. We have a program in our energy assistance, with our energy assistance program, where our customers and also our employees donate. And the generosity that's on display to help our customers is incredible. So it really is these 3 strategic initiatives, but it's bigger than that. I mean, this is something where as we continue to move forward, we're truly going to make an impact in our community. So,
yeah. And I would just add, this is Tim Burke. I would just add, this is also part of our organization component as well, as we begin to think about that strategic initiative and net zero carbon and how that may impact that. We may be tracking today for you in this scorecard the electric related issues, but there's also gas issues relative to that. And those electric issues or those electric savings also kind of impact generation from our current portfolio. And so it is, in my mind, fully part of our net zero carbon strategy in SD7. So.
Great, good answers. I see Director Williams' hand up.
Yep. One more technical note. You had the energy savings in kilowatt hours listed as projected or modeled energy savings. Will we have the ability to access the bills and actually verify the savings? Because I know that modeled to reality can be tricky.
Yeah. So as part of the program evaluation, of course, these are customers that just went into the program. So that energy savings, as I talked about earlier, is based on that NEAT tool that is used to complete the audit and projecting the savings based on that house and the measures that we're installing. So will we go back and measure actual energy savings? So that is something that we are looking into to go and see, okay, this is where we were, and then go back from the best way to really measure that energy savings is to look at 12 months behavior. So you look at the prior 12 months, and then you look at post 12 months to really determine what type of value we brought in the true energy savings. So really good question. So yeah, we will definitely be looking at the best way to look at that energy burden reduction, the actual data that happened as a result of the installation.
Great. And then from here, for directors, I think that this talks about kind of a reactive response to people who have a high energy bill, but I'd like to make sure we keep in mind how we look back to what other policies might lead to people being in a situation where they would be in need of assistance, income qualified for this type of an evaluation and upgrading their home. So we talked about affordability and rates, and I would encourage us, maybe the finance committee, to try and incorporate some of this idea back into understanding, do we have a disproportionately high number of people who would be income eligible and in need of energy efficiency assistance relative to other utilities? And if so, are there other ways that we can address this more proactively rather than reactively by saying, we'll come and provide you assistance later? I guess it's basically a question about, are our rates appropriate, and how should we balance rate structure relative to corrective action later? And so I'd like to talk to Director Bogner about that and see where we might be able to continue some investigation there based on the information that we're getting here.
Okay, thanks for that comment, Director Williams. I don't see any additional hands. I'm going to pause for 3 seconds just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay, Britton, virtual high five. That was really well done. Super exciting. Thanks for all the great work on this. Just really, really, really phenomenal work. And kudos to you and the entire team. This is exciting.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to present on this.
Indeed. Glad to have you. Okay, Mr. Burke, top that with the president's report.
Hey, very good. Thanks. And I hate to follow a guy like Britton, but here we go. Baseload generation. I'm going to go to the next slide. Pretty much really market, as Javier has talked about in the financial report, really up until the last couple of weeks, we've seen increased temperatures, but certainly through this period, through May, it's been a little bit lower than normal, lower temperatures than normal. And so these are pretty standard capacity factors at this point in time. Some derates in some of these, but otherwise normal operations. And our peaking generation, not a lot of peaking generation. A lot of that may be we're doing some assessments and we're doing some testing. We're doing a number of other things. A few of them have been called on for market conditions. Although when we report in June, in July for June, you will see that these peaking units have been called on for some capacity capabilities as well. Our May renewables, as you can see here, contributed to about 39% of the OPPD retail sales. The wind had a capacity factor of about 36, almost 37%. And year to date, our capacity factor for renewables is about 48%, and wind specifically is 44%. So we're seeing some pretty good impact on our renewables as well. Kind of a gift of energy. We talked about all these ways where we can begin to help customers. This is on the next slide. It's a program that was introduced to help provide family and friends the ability to pay towards or forward for an OPPD customer account. The payments can vary in the amount. It can be applied to residential businesses, depending on the current situation. It really it allows the ease participation where, the giver doesn't need to know the OPPD account. He's able to participate by providing the customer name, address, either phone number, email address, something people typically would have. And once the payment is applied, then both the giver and the receiver provide a friendly notification on kind of what that transaction looked like. And typically we see these kind of requests during holidays or during need times. And so it's just a great opportunity for us to make that program easier and better for all customers, the givers and the receivers as well. On the next slide, powering through the pandemic, a lot of things are going on. We still have, almost half of our employees logged in remotely throughout the district. This always surprises me, 8,635 WebEx sessions in the month of April. Over 1.63 million minutes during that time. Just absolutely amazing. On the customer side, we're still seeing increasing in scams. And so we continually report them, work with our local law enforcement agencies, where we've had the opportunity to identify about 16 phone numbers to shut down because of scam reports and telephone calls. Our team has done just an incredible job. On some of our real property and some of our critical operations area, we continually sanitize all of those facilities. We're going to continue to do that throughout the course of time. And our employees in our supply chain have done just some amazing work. 360 containers of disinfecting wipes, 95 gallons of liquid disinfectant, 95 gallons of sanitizers, 8,400 masks, just a way for us to begin to continue to protect our employees. Then our transportation groups, they wipe down vehicles each day, each night, specifically if multiple or different employees use those. So really pleased with the work we're doing, that we continue. We're probably going to move our business continuity planning, not to every day, but multiple days a week, just to give a break for people and to get them back to kind of somewhat normal operation. On the next slide, energy efficiency education and TikTok challenge. They had to do a deep tutorial for me on this, but this is really an opportunity for us to engage kind of our older education students, junior high, maybe high school, to really think about using the TikTok platform and what we are going to be able to do. And this is going to start, it started this week actually, where we will actually give them an energy efficiency tip and they will put it together in a TikTok video. And it's just an opportunity to engage the youth, engage customers, and being able to do that. By the way, I don't think it has to be a youth. So once I get, briefed on that technology, I'll be able to execute it and use it as well. But just a way in which we're trying to engage customers, use some creativity, but use the creativity for educational reasons and purposes. They can go to OPPD, there's a hashtag OPPDEE. They can go on our website and essentially get that information as well. So that's going to be kind of cool. On our customer-owned generation, we talked a little bit about our Rate 464 today, but we've been really working hard on releasing a series of improvements to support our customers that desire to install their own generation. Many of these improvements are customer-facing, and others are really just internal changes that streamline processes. So I've heard at least a couple of board members talk about kind of the soft cost of doing things. This is a way for us to really be able to think about that, to bring maximum efficiency, improved communication to our customers and our contractors. And really the top goal of this project was really to maximize safety for our OPPD personnel as they're out and making sure customers that want to generate their own electricity don't negatively impact that safety. And so this is a great opportunity for customers to engage around. We've tested it with solar developers, customers, suppliers. They've given us exceptional feedback. You can go to OPPD.com and visit and get some information on that. The next one is on just a little recognition. We try to do that. It's a great opportunity to keep our board members even engaged. Ann McGuire was and received the 2020 Believe and Achieve Action recipient. She received that award at the Leaders for Life Luncheon at Creighton University and was created to honor a business civic leader that, has impacted the community for the benefit of others, emphasizes women's issues and female empowerment, and provides outstanding mentorship of women leaders. And so Ann's certainly been a member of the Creighton J. Backer Executive Board, Leaders for Life Committee. She's a retired nurse. Her work has been exemplified, true leadership with her family, community, professional career, and certainly as a OPPD board member for many years. So it's a great congratulations to Ann to be recognized as a member of the OPPD family. And then relative to recognition, this was kind of a really interesting opportunity. We had a customer email into OPPD and say, hey, my son was going to, and the son's name was Brecken, was having his 10th birthday in a COVID time where he couldn't have friends over and do all that stuff. They put out a big sign out in front. Our OPPD crews were doing some work just kind of around the corner. And as our journeyman, Nick Weigel, Jared Buckley, and Rod Smith came around the corner and saw that, they stopped. They made a special effort to stop, say hi, social distancing, but they also sang happy birthday to this young man, which was really kind of cool. And we got that information from the mother and sent a note back to her as well, wishing Brecken a happy 10th birthday. And that's really the core value of some of our OPPD people. The other one was we had an employee that sent me an email directly and said, Steve Reddick, who works in our material management side, supply management side, said, hey, we had one of our employees station. Steve was actually cleaning a window there and had stopped. And then he looked out and saw one of our other employees, Nick Daniels, pushing an older gentleman in a motorized wheelchair or cart across the gas station parking lot. Nick ran over to help and pushed the gentleman all the way across the lot into the store so he could recharge his cart. And we had one of our employees that recognized that, saw, man, that is really OPPD core values living out every day. And so senior team recognized these individuals for some of the great work that they've been doing. And that's kind of cool. Cool for me to report, and probably is embarrassing for them and their other employees to give them a hard time once they know that we did this online. The next is Omaha Gives. So we talked about this last month about during Omaha Gives on May 20th. We had our OPPD Energy Assistance Program. Over 6,700, almost $7,000 were donated. 2,700 or more of that came from OPPD employees. Britton talked about that a little bit earlier. And then just the Energy Assistance Program. Go online. There's ways to be able to do that. You can call our call center. You can visit it on oppdhardshiptools.org. You can find agencies that can support. You can go to oppd.com/donate to donate. Just a lot of opportunities for customers to engage if they need assistance, and we will help them with a variety of the other partners, or customers that want to donate, certainly the opportunity to be able to do that and support customers. And finally, in the President's report, just our focus on safety and the employees at OPPD that have given their life in the form of service to our customer owners. This is Larry Wood. He died June 20th, 1964. From injuries sustained from a fall after coming in contact with a 8,000 volt line near 87th and Capitol in Omaha. He was part of a restoration efforts from a storm that at the time was billed as one of our worst storms with over 95-mile-an-hour winds. He was 34 years old, had 11 years of service with OPPD at the time of his death. And after his first year, Mr. Wood served a 4-year enlistment in the United States Navy before returning to OPPD as a groundman helper. And so just a great example of the impacts of our employees and what they give for our customers. Mr. Wood was served by his wife, Jean, his son, Bill, his mother, and 2 sisters. And with that, I will conclude my President's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Much appreciated. Well done. We are on to the point in the show where we welcome public comment from anyone on any matter related to OPPD. If you would like to make a comment, please go ahead and raise your virtual hand or send the the host a quick chat and let them know. Okay, I see three. Mr. Vavolka, you are at the top of the list. So let's go ahead and unmute Mr. Vavolka and let him go first.
I think that hand has just been raised since the last time I spoke.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Alan. Next up is Mr. John Pollock. Go ahead, John, as soon as you're unmuted.
Thank you. 1412 North 35th Street. Just a quick weather. We're starting out warm and dry. A few days of that. Then we're going to have increasing heat. This is a hot weather pattern. Plenty of wind, plenty of solar, lasting at least another week, possibly longer than that. By the end of it, we're going to be at least into the upper 90s, possibly getting over 100. At that point, from about 7 to 10 days, the weather models have a very wide divergence in what happens next, whether the hot, dry weather continues. By dry, I mean little or no precipitation, not necessarily humidity, which could be increasing. But at that point, we've got this divergence in the weather models, which is kind of normal for that far out. The one thing that I would comment is that this is the pattern that favors drought and heat wave. We've got warm water in the Atlantic, relatively cold water in the equatorial Pacific. Research has shown that there's a correlation. It's not complete determination, but there's a correlation between having those and having hot, dry summers. So there's an additional concern that we could stabilize this pattern more than the models have. One other thing I would say in terms of severe weather, even though the precipitation should be below normal, we are still going to be vulnerable to strong wind events. If we do happen to get a front coming through like we have seen lately, we're going to be having thunderstorms that'll be liable to have very strong winds. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock. Quick reminder for our call-in user, phone number 402-830. If you would like to make a comment, reminder to hit *3 on your phone, and that will raise your virtual hand. Okay, Mr. Wishart, you are up next. Let's go ahead and unmute him.
Thanks. I've been glad to see the attention being paid to having programs be accessible and effectively targeted and promoted to customers who are struggling with affordability. And I like the way that folks are thinking about how do we measure and compare the impact these programs are having compared with the need going forward. For example, some comparison a colleague and I did a year or two ago made it look like the LIHEAP eligibility numbers based on households and associated income levels were much greater than the number of people utilizing them, maybe something around 50% or more people who are eligible were not using it. So the other thing I would say is in line with the strategic objectives that it would be good for OPPD to set goals of maximizing utilization of programs to improve affordability by those who are eligible and to measure progress towards those goals. I think OPPD can look to innovation across the country in making efficiency upgrades and distributed generation available to those who are renters, because we know from the data that renters are much more at risk of high energy burdens. And one way to do this is on-bill financing for the efficiency improvements or solar that's been successful in a lot of different parts of the country. That's all I got.
Okay, Mr. Wishart, very helpful as always. Thank you very much for those comments. Okay, I'm going to quick pause here to see if there are any additional public that would like to comment on any matters related to OPPD? Going once, going twice. Okay, that therein is the end of our agenda. Thanks everyone for another productive meeting. Thanks for sticking with it. Thanks again to everybody who helped organize the virtual meeting. I think we get better at this every time, which is why we go longer. We're so good at it. We're just going to keep going and going. Anyway.
You're complete.
Yeah, we're complete. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful evening. We are adjourned.
Take care. You bet.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.